that seismic shift for people of colour also coincided with other significant global moments of change, where we have woken up more widely and recognised. They all begin with C for me. There's people of colour, there's climate change, and of course there's COVID. And there's something therefore about the coincidence of all of that transformation that is actually energising and positive, and nobody can, if you are a world leader or if you are a leader in an organisation at whatever level, you cannot hide from all three of those now. And I think that does help the overall process of transformation. That said, my normally completely optimistic, forward-looking view of life is tempered somewhat, because I think that what can happen, and we have seen this, is that it also triggers a complete psychological split in individuals and in organizations. You either get denial of all of this change, total resistance, or indeed another way of not emotionally being able to deal with what we need to deal with. So I'm talking here about the kind of evidence of wokeness and the idea that anybody who might examine their history, as the example that was given at the beginning of, and look at why slavery could have been in any way tolerated or accepted, you can get a complete and utter ridiculous, in my view, ridiculous backlash to that. And we're going through a lot of those pains of transformation and change. So to your question about how to lead well through it, I don't think I can add any more to the very fine words that have been said about integrity and humanity, and then the examples of listening to the lived experience, and being held accountable to taking that into your being as a human being and into your organization. But it is also hard. It's also hard. And I think I'd end by saying that we have to have a lot more of these kinds of learnings and conversations, and we have to challenge, and we have to find ways of challenging, whereby, in order to get our needs and points across to others, we can do that in such a way as doesn't invalidate the experience that they are having. Even though, in the case of somebody who is whose skin happens to be white, as mine is, I have absolutely no doubt that my just by being who I am, my experiences have at times unconsciously completely led to an invalidation of the experience of a person of colour.
Well, this is very tricky, isn't it? Because I don't think there's any particular leadership style that is associated with progressing the changes that have taken place in the aftermath of Black Lives Matter. It's too soon. It's, you know, the timescales are too short. But I just wanted to build on a point that Anne raised, because I think it's quite important. This issue of wokeness. Now, the term woke originally came about in the aftermath of the Black Power movement and the critical race studies developments. And it's about understanding the antecedents of racism. That's what it really is. So the historical and social factors that have led to certain phenomena that we see in our society. So if we understand that many police forces in the southern states were originally slave catching gangs, it's a bit difficult to then deny that there is a legacy that may shape their attitude and behavior towards Black people. Now, very recently, my father, who's 93, spoke to my sister, and he said he knew his great-grandmother. Oh, so my sister said, that's fantastic. Oh yeah, and she was born a slave in the Caribbean. So the idea that the history of Black people is unimportant, whereas the legacy of white people is deeply, deeply problematic. So if anybody says that sounds a bit woke, I will answer, well, what do you mean? Do you mean a kind of reactionary representation of the term woke, or the accurate one? Because I think there's a huge difference. And I think that leaders going forward have to really be careful to avoid this, this narrative of wokeness, which Anne rightly described as a kind of backlash, and just rise above it and understand there are certain people who don't want the bad news of yesteryear being brought to the fore, because that's unfortunate. That's the way it is. It's all out there on the internet anyway. So why deny it?